Greetings. R. Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. Today we are doing episode 136. And we're going to be looking at, once again, our favorite topic, it seems, the Russian-Ukrainian war. So this article starts out with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said a ceasefire with Russia in its more than three-year-old war was possible at any moment and called on Kiev's allies to apply greater pressure on Moscow to put the measure in place. Zelensky, speaking at a joint news conference in Prague alongside Czech President Peter Pavel, said that unless increased pressure were applied, Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin would take no real steps to end the conflict. We believe that without increased pressure, Russia will not take real practical steps to end the war. Today marks the 54th day that Russia has ignored even the American proposal to completely cease fire, Zelensky told reporters. We believe that a ceasefire is possible at any moment, even starting today, and should last at least 30 days to give diplomacy a real chance. Putin last week declared a three-day ceasefire over May 8th and 10th to mark the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Soviet Union and its allies over Nazi Germany in World War II. Zelensky said such a measure is pointless and has called instead for an unconditional ceasefire over at least 30 days in line with a U.S. proposal launched in March. The Czech government has been a strong backer of Kiev since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022 and has led an initiative to supply Ukraine with long-range caliber ammunition. Zelensky wants more sanctions, pressure on Moscow. The Ukrainian president said that rather than putting tanks on display at a May 9th victory parade, Putin should be thinking about how to actually end his war. Three things are needed: more sanctions against Russia, continued support for Ukraine, and a significant increase in defense cooperation across Europe. He said Russia must know that Europeans will defend themselves. Moscow said it wants an unambiguous reply from Zelensky to its three-day offer. Pavel said Russia had yet to show any indication it wanted to proceed with measures to end the war. If someone has all the cards in their hand to end the war, then it is President Putin, who can do it with a single decision, he told reporters, but so far the will has not appeared. Under the military initiative, the Czechs have used their diplomatic, business, and industrial expertise to find large caliber ammunition around the world and ship it to Ukraine with funding from NATO allies. Pavel said in February that Ukraine had received 1.6 million rounds of large caliber ammunition in the past year. Zelensky said Ukraine hoped to receive 1.8 million shells under the program initiative in 2025. In an earlier social media post, Zelensky praised the initiative as effective and said cooperation would also be pursued in military aviation, expanding pilot training programs, and supporting Ukraine's fleet of F-16 aircraft. Zelensky, who was accompanied on the trip by First Lady Olena Zelensky, meets Czech Prime Minister Peter Fiala on Monday with a Czech ammunition drive among the topics of the agenda. And so that's the news of the day. And so my opinion on this might vary from what other people have. I have stated in the past that, first of all, I have complete confidence in President Trump. He has a plan. Any good plan always has to have a plan B or C because there are things you just can't predict. And so I don't know if he's still with his initial plan or if he's made some adjustments. But we do know the United States made an offer. And it's been 54 days ago. And Putin has simply ignored it. On the other hand, Putin says, well, he gave a three-day ceasefire, which 3 days is nothing. And he makes some false bravado statements like, well, we've won the war, basically. Well, they haven't won the war. Have they regained some property? Yes. I shouldn't call it property, probably. They call it land. On the other hand, he has claimed he's kicked Ukraine out of the Kursk region. He hasn't. They're still there. They may not be as strong there as they were. Don't forget, in this war, Ukraine is operating with a smaller army than Russia has. And what they have to do is, we saw it in the Civil War when Robert E. Lee had a armed force going against Union forces, which was Grant. Some people give Grant credit for how smart he was, how he played it. He didn't play it smart at all. He would make a move down to go to try to cross this river, and Lee would move his troops down and stop him. And then it just kept on going down. Well, eventually, Grant's long-term plan, if you want to call that a strategy, was to simply cause the rebel army to suffer a lot of losses, and they did. But the Union did too, unnecessarily. So in the end, obviously, we know how that war turned out. But the principle is the same. Ukraine has a smaller army, and so they can move that. It's a little bit more mobile than the Russian army, and they can move it along the border in different spots. And they pull them out here, move them over here, and so they can reinforce troops all along the line. But they can't do it constantly across the entire line. And that gives Russia an advantage. Unlike Grant, who had some capable generals under him, and capable fighters for that matter, Putin doesn't have that. And his generals apparently lie to him and tell him how victorious they are, celebrating the victory, and so on and so forth. And I do believe Putin's got a nut loose up here, but I also believe he's kind of smart, and he's got to know they're lying to him, but he chooses to ignore it. But in any case, his little idea of a ceasefire is not even worth considering. The United States put the fourth one is even-handed, and I'm not sure I agree with all parts of it, but it is a opportunity. What they're trying to do is to get people to the table where they can sit across and look in one another's eyes and discuss things. And this would represent this initial offer the United States made is more of a starting point than an ending point. And that's any kind of offer is a starting point. Then they sit down and they look at the facts and find out exactly what will work the best. And you're going to have some kind of securities and agreements and so forth. Putin, not interested. 54 days, actually over 54 days now. So why should anybody believe what he has to say? So I think Zelensky is behaving quite responsibly. So is the U.S. government. And Trump is a very patient man, and he knows things the rest of us don't know. So I personally still trust him on this issue. I still think that he's got a plan, and he has people in place in his government who are watching closely and for any signs whatsoever that can lead to a final agreement, or at least, like I said, a starting point where they can sit down at the table and discuss things. So it's sort of always in flux, but it's always a thing in which it comes down to you have two men. You have President Trump, who's got a plan, Putin's whose only plan is to claim victory even out of defeat. And basically, he's been defeated. He was supposed to take Ukraine in 3 days. It's been over 3 years. So, but he's claiming victory. So that's something that, well, we just have to take with a grain of salt. But as long as he remains in power, we have to deal with him. And there is indication he's sick. but we don't know for sure he is. There is indication there are people who are opposed to him, but we can't take that for granted either. So we have to talk to him now, and we have to find a way to get him to the table where he can sit down, look Zelensky in the eye, look Trump or whoever represents Trump in the eye, and say, okay, let's deal. And then we'll start to see some things happen. But until that happens, I can tell you one thing. I think Trump is leaning more towards Ukraine now than he was when he took over, because he's seen a side of Putin that never showed up before in the negotiations between the two of them. And he's seeing a side, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like what he's seeing. He's responding to it with firmness. And Putin is making a mistake in that. And he will, I think it's going to cost him. Well, that's it for today. That's my opinion. Now, if you disagree with my opinion, feel free to throw your 2 cents worth in there. I will. If you do, I appreciate it if you give me some actual facts, not what he said, she said, but some facts, and something along that line. If you disagree with my Bible talk on Thursday, then I want Bible facts as to why you believe what you believe, if you happen to disagree with me. So this is sort of a free-for-all type of thing, but with some rules. But if you want to do that, just leave a comment. I do check them out. And there's always a possibility that I'll either respond right there or I'll respond in a future podcast. Well, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget, this is sponsored by Basic Authors Training and Ministry Publishing, 2 services offered by TR Independent Books. So I hope you subscribe right down below here, and then you have the access that you need to get this podcast on a regular basis. Well, that's it for today, and I'll see you in the next episode.